There is a rock in the sky, and you have never once thanked it. It has no army, no mind, no plan. And yet right now, it is the reason your body knows when to sleep. The reason the ocean breathes in and out along the shoreline. The reason summer softens into autumn instead of snapping you between fire and ice. If it disappeared tonight, not exploded, not crashed, just quietly ceased to exist, you wouldn't notice right away. The sky would just look a little emptier. But within a few 100,000 years, the world you live on would start to lose its mind. This is the story of what happens when you remove the one thing everyone assumes doesn't matter. This is what if the moon had never existed at all. 4.5 billion years ago, Earth wasn't alone in its orbit. A second world, roughly the size of Mars, was tracing an almost identical path around the Sun. Scientists call it Theia, named after the Titan who, in myth, gave birth to the moon goddess. Two planets sharing one lane, for millions of years. Until physics ran out of patience, they collided. Not a graze. A full planet-splitting impact that liquefied continents and threw a ring of molten wreckage into orbit around a wounded Earth. Gravity did what gravity always does. It gathered the debris into a sphere. We call that sphere the moon, which means the moon was never a gentle companion Earth simply acquired. It's a scar, a permanent reminder of a collision violent enough to end a planet that instead quietly built the conditions for us. Now imagine that impact missed, a few thousand kilometers off course. A cosmic near miss that erases nothing except the moon. And possibly everything that came after it. The first thing you'd lose is rhythm. The moon's gravity pulls the oceans into two enormous shrugs a day. High tide, low tide, a 4 billion year drumbeat that has never once skipped a beat. Without it, the sun still tugs at the water, but weakly. Tides shrink to almost nothing. The shallow, chaotic tide pools where salt water repeatedly abandons the shoreline to open air barely exist at all. That sounds small. It isn't. Some biologists believe those tide pools were the doorway. The place where the first stubborn organisms were stranded on land again and again, forced to endure exposure until, eventually, something adapted enough to stay. No tides, no repeated exposure, no pressure to crawl out. The ocean just stays the ocean. Forever. But then something strange happened when scientists modeled the rest of the picture. Here's the part almost nobody talks about, because it isn't about oceans or animals. It's about balance. Earth spins on a 23.5-degree tilt, the exact lean that gives us seasons. That number isn't random. It's held in place like a spinning top with a steady hand resting on it by the gravitational grip of the moon. Take the hand away, and the top doesn't spin steady anymore. It wobbles. French astronomer Jacques Lascar modeled exactly this, and the results are unsettling. Without a large moon, Earth's tilt wouldn't drift gently. It could swing chaotically, tipping dramatically over spans as short as a few million years. Not a slow climate shift, a planet lurching between ice ages and furnace heat, like a fever that never breaks. A world like that doesn't nurture life. It tests it over and over, resetting the experiment before it finishes. This is where everything changes. Without the moon's tidal drag slowing our spin down over billions of years, Earth would still be turning close to its original speed. Days wouldn't be 24 hours. They'd be somewhere around 6-hour days, shrieking winds from a planet spinning nearly 4 times faster than the one you grew up on. A sky going dark before the day even feels like it started. And at night, true darkness. No pale companion to steer ships by, to build calendars around, to write a single poem about. Every culture that ever measured time by the sky before clocks existed loses its clock. Every myth born from a glowing shape overhead never gets written because there was never anything there to inspire it. But that wasn't the worst part. Some researchers go further, and this is where it stops being trivia and starts being unsettling. They argue the climate chaos alone, the wild swings, the resets, the fevered instability of a moonless Earth might have been enough to prevent complex life from ever fully taking hold. Not eliminated. Just delayed, disrupted, reset again and again, like a book that keeps closing before the final chapter is written. Which means in a version of history without the moon, there might be no one standing on that other Earth wondering what happened to it. No civilizations, no telescopes turned upward, no name for the emptiness above them. Because there'd be no one left to look up and ask why the sky feels wrong. Sit with that for a second. The most human thing you do, wonder, question, stare into the dark and ask why, may only exist because a rock 4 billion years ago got struck hard enough to leave debris in the sky. Here's the truth underneath all of this. This was never really a story about the moon. It's a story about the quiet, invisible things holding your own life together. The ones you never thank because you've never had to notice them. The routine you don't realize is keeping you steady until it collapses. The person whose steadiness you take for granted until they're gone, and suddenly your own tilt starts to wander. The rhythm, sleep, work, connection that you assume is just how things are until it's taken away, and you realize it was the only thing keeping you from spinning out. We spend our lives bracing for the dramatic forces, the meteor, the crisis, the collision. But most collapse doesn't come from those. It comes from quietly losing the thing that was stabilizing you, long before you ever thought to be grateful for it. Tonight when it rises, look at the moon differently. It isn't decoration. It isn't romance. It's 4.5 billion years of violence, frozen into a slow, silent orbit. And it may be the single reason there was ever anyone alive to look up and wonder about it at all. Maybe the scariest thought isn't that the moon could disappear, it's that the things keeping any of us steady are usually just as fragile, just as invisible, and we only seem to notice them the moment they're gone.